Thank you, Thomas. Again, my name is Brian Sajada. I am a project manager up here, the project manager for the radioactive materials handling facility demolition over here. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself before I begin. I am a 16-year employee of the Santa Susana laboratory. I've been doing cleanup and remediation projects during that period, a variety of locations throughout the Hill. The past 10 years I've been involved with doing the removal of rad facility demolition up in Area 4. So, and been with RMHF for a fair amount of time. Radioactive materials handling facility's life is really coming to an end now, and it is the last of the 27 facilities or so. I'm sorry, where'd you lose me at? It is the last of the facilities to be demolished up in Santa Susana. It's the last of 27 facilities that now will be gone. I work as a project manager, as I mentioned before, and what I do is I end up being the one who figures out what work needs to be done, figure out the requirements that have to be done, I do budgeting, scheduling, those type of things. Things that are needed to keep the project moving. And I am not a spokesperson, but I am involved with the project over here, and I thought this would be a good chance for me to tell you folks a little bit more about what I do and the project, what I like to do up with the radioactive materials handling facility. I am a native of the area. I grew up in San Fernando Valley. I'm a graduate of Granada Hills High School, and I live in Thousand Oaks with my family. So I'm very proud to have worked up at Santa Susana, and very proud of the accomplishments that have been had up there as well. So let's start off with what is the radioactive materials handling facility? It is a group of 10 buildings that is out in Area 4, as Thomas mentioned. Built in 1959 to safely manage radioactive materials. The area is paved area is about 1.5 acres in size, and as you can see, we got a fence around the facility here. We've got a couple of buildings. One building is of note. That is building 22. It's about 52 feet high, and underneath the building there are 7 vaults that were used for the dry storage of fuel and for radioactive materials. They provided shielding and storage for those items. The things we did at the RMHF is we used it basically as a collection point for radioactive materials that are arising from the operations in Area 4. If you had a contaminated item, it eventually came to the radioactive materials handling facility either for decontamination or for packaging for off-site disposal. We stored mixed waste there with radioactive waste. A mixed waste is a radioactive waste that has a chemical waste mixed in with it. It has some special requirements to it. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. We use the facilities I mentioned before for the decontamination waste packaging. And as I said, as how we have gone to finish the operations in Area 4, it is now time for the radioactive materials handling facility itself to be demolished. So most of the facility, most of the waste have been removed, and the RMHF is no longer needed. But what I have here is a couple pictures of a person doing some sampling. This is also at the radioactive materials handling facility, RMHF, and we have some packages of waste that are ready for shipment. What we're proposing to do is to remove the RMHF, and that means that we will remove all buildings and remaining equipment. We will remove all the concrete foundations. We will take out the subsurface vaults of building 22, the utilities, sewer lines, water lines, all the asphalt, and all the contaminated soils that do not meet our cleanup objectives. This is a facility, get used to this thing here. This is a picture of the RMHF over here, and just another view of the thing. The 1.5 acre area would be completely leveled off, and all the buildings removed with the area just basically just at grade or with the soil in place. So we looked at taking apart the radioactive material handling facility. We considered the alternatives, and what we ended up doing was looking at 2 options. Here we looked at a no action alternative. No action alternative. We also looked at demolishing and removing for off-site disposal the facility. So the first thing we did is we looked at, is it implementable? Is it possible to actually do the work that we'd like to do? We also considered, is it effective? And we also looked at the cost for just general comparison purposes. What we came to is that we found that the no action alternative, which really is the leave it in place alternative or do nothing alternative, as you may,
is very implementable because it doesn't require us to do anything. Basically, leave it and you will meet your objectives. But we also know that based on our previous experience at ETEC and other DOE facilities, that we can demolish the RMHF and make our objectives. Is it effective? The no action alternative is not effective. It basically leaves the thing right in place. Leaves the buildings and concerned where they are. For the demolition removal option, yes, that is very effective. It does remove the things that we like to remove from the facility. For cost purposes, here we arrived at a cost estimate of $30 million over 30 years as a cost to do maintenance and operations for that period of time, and as opposed to the $13 million that we think it's going to take to demolish the facility and take it all the way down. So what we came to then is that the demolition and removal is a preferred option for us. After the buildings are gone, after the soil has been, or after the building and the piping, all that stuff has been removed, we remove the contaminated soils which do not meet the circular requirements for a residential exposure scenario. And how will we know the objectives have been met? We will sample the area to confirm that it meets the circular requirements for a residential exposure scenario. The Department of Energy will work with the EPA to develop the sampling analysis plan, and an independent organization will perform verification sampling. Over here we've got several individuals at Building 59 who are taking samples from the basement area, Building 59, and we have a person here who's been doing some field sampling as well using a detector. Now, we ask ourselves how will the action be protected, and one of my jobs as the project manager is to arrange the project such that we recognize what the hazards are, mitigate those hazards, and accomplish the project. And we find out what kind of contamination it is, and then we start looking at the building, where the waste, where the disposal location is going to go, that is where the waste is going to go, and how we're going to get there. That's how we're going to package the waste. We develop all those things as we go forward with the project here to define what we're doing. And we do so in a protected manner. That is, all the requirements are going to be met for the packaging, for the transportation, for the characterization of the buildings, make sure we know what the radioactive materials are there. If so, what are they? What are they of? And so it's all based on doing these actions to make sure that we can demolish the building and do it in a safe and effective manner for the public, for the facility, and yes, for our neighbors as well. Okay, so what we do here is before we start demolishing the building, we will be performing a biological assessment of the area to ensure that the project will not harm on-site animals. And we also have these other requirements that will be following as well. Just because we're demolishing the building under a circle authority, we still have these other requirements that will be maintained. And among others, there are the radiation controls, the worker safety, the stormwater pollution prevention requirements, control of air emissions and dust, safe packaging, and of course transportation disposal of waste. Now, transportation disposal of waste is an area of concern to our neighbors, and I'd like to spend a moment talking a little bit more about that. When we demolish the building, what we're doing is we go through and first find out where the radioactive contamination is. We demolish the buildings in a safe and effective manner. We also site produce or package those wastes so they're ready to be shipped off-site. So when we do that, we go through a process of understanding which is radioactive and which is not. So that's what we mean by segregation when we perform it.